We're here to discuss how to create lovable homes. Um, on my side, I work in alternative accommodations at Roundhill Capital. We're a big sort of investment manager and asset manager in Europe, and what I focus on is build to rent, co-living, and a bit of student. So yeah, that's me. Let Nicola and Karolina talk about it themselves.
Hello, everyone. My name is Karolina Maximova. I'm a designer and a product development engineer at Air 18, which is a manufacturing company of bespoke furniture for residential projects. And by working with this company for 5 years, I've gained the practical knowledge of understanding what is behind the beautiful furniture, how it's made, what material is made of, and does design equal quality? So that's what I'm gonna talk about today.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicola. I am a senior project manager at Hatch Interiors, predominantly working with build to rent customers, although we do have a section in the business that deal with individual landlords. We specialize in providing furniture and interior design solutions to the property market here in the UK. So yeah, excited to talk about with Karolina and Eliza how we can help you all work out how to create lovable homes, not just for your own properties that you might own, and try to understand the demographic in the industry, and yeah, how to make sure your spaces remain on trend.
Cool. So I think our first case here is how should you think about the buying process? So yeah, I might let one of you guys talk about that. But yeah.
So I think, Karolina, if you don't mind, I'll jump in first. We often, obviously specific to build to rent mainly, but we often speak with developers and landlords sometimes before they've even potentially bought their properties. They're sort of looking at the property that they want to invest in, trying to understand how they can maximize rental yields and everything. And so we sort of work with them in terms of, when you're buying a home or a property, once you have the property, what is the process that your tenant is going to go through when they move in? And how can you basically make sure that it stands out amongst a very, very competitive property market industry at the moment? So we will walk them through how the space can be best utilized for the tenant that they're targeting, whether that be a younger professional or a family or downsizers, and making sure that the space really works for who they're targeting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can add a little bit to that. So one of the things that we do is we use a lot of data as well. So proprietary data that we buy from various sources to kind of, as you say, Nicola, understand who is going to live in that asset, and then how can we tailor that home for the things that they need, because what they would need if they're a young family is probably quite different to what they would need or appreciate or pay more for, right, if they were a young professional. But you always have to add a bit of flexibility in there, because as much research as you can do, or how well you think you know your asset, there's always sort of nuances and changes, and you can think it's all going to be young families, and then suddenly it's completely different. So there has to be a level of flexibility within that design too. Cool. I think the next thing we were going to talk about was kind of prevalent design trends that appeal to modern tenants. I think you guys have some mood boards and things, and are much more well versed in what is cool. So I'll let you guys do it.
It's up to you, Nicola, if you would like to speak more about interior, because I'm more of a furniture, so I would like to speak more about already. Once you speak of what styles, I'm going to explain, so what kind of furniture we can put in this space. Maybe I'll give you a go.
Yeah, no, of course. Thank you. I was going to share my screen, but I'm a little bit apprehensive about the technology as this is the first time I've used Hopin. So I might just share it later afterwards. I'll ask the team if we can share it with everyone. But basically, what we're finding as prevalent design trends, I mean, obviously there's a lot of talk regarding sustainability at the moment. I know, Eliza, you just spoke about it when you were on the stage earlier, how that is still a really, really big design trend. So, you know, there's a lot of focus on bringing the outdoors in and all of these sort of like buzzwords that get you sort of eye roll a little bit because you hear it a lot, but they are very popular topics, especially for younger tenants. They tend to be looking for spaces that can really hone into their well-being. Everyone, I feel at the moment, especially now living through a pandemic, they want their home to be a space that they come home to and they feel safe, they feel protected, they feel healthy. So making sure that, you know, there's lots of nice natural light, there's no mold, the structure of sound in the building, all those sort of little details can add to someone feeling that this space is a lovable home. We see in terms of design trends for, you know, decoration and furniture and everything, there'll always be the consistent trend. You know, Scandi is quite a very popular trend. It always will be that sort of neutral, a bit more minimalist. Mainly the reason why that's so popular is it's easy to change out something if you want to, because it all tends to be grey or white. And it's also a really easy way for tenants to add their own personality because they can throw in pops of color, they can throw in exciting textures, be in the form of bed linen or cushions or artwork, and they can make their space their own. So that's a great first starting point. If you are a larger developer and you've got a very clear brand, it's also really important to make sure that the decoration and furniture link in with your branding. So, you know, if you've got really fun, punchy colors in your branding, you really like to work with neon graphic design, it's really exciting to bring those elements through into the finer details in your property. So we see quite a lot of briefs will come through from clients asking for bold pops of color where, you know, you'll start with that neutral base and then you'll throw in mustard or a navy blue or a terracotta, and sort of that's a great way to bring in more trendy colors. But then after a few years, you can then cycle them out and bring in more trend driven colors then. And then I think at the moment as well, you know, interior design is influenced a lot by fashion and vice versa. They tend to communicate. So, you know, so we're starting to see a big trend for like the sort of eclectic, really expressive sort of nature. And I feel like as we all start to come out of our homes, I feel like everyone's going to be a bit more loud and proud. And I feel like that's going to slowly drift into interior design as well, where people are going to make sure that their homes really reflect who they are as an individual. So I think if you're furnishing a property for a tenant, I think it's really nice to sort of tap in to that demographic, because obviously if you're furnishing in East London, it's going to look a lot different to if you're furnishing a property down in Cornwall and across the country. So it's really key to look at what's going on in your local market and really understand what tenants are driven by.
And do you see it that you have sort of base furniture and then sort of bits that you pick that you know you will like definitely recycle and change in 3 years, and then kind of, you know, the rest of the furniture you'll get to keep for 5 to 7? Like, is that how you usually think about it with your clients?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a mix of both, because it depends on how long you think you're going to hold the property for as well. If you think you're going to sell it on in a couple of years, then obviously you don't need to focus too much on the life cycle. But it links back into sustainability. Having to swap out furniture every 2 to 3 years is not very sustainable. So it's about picking the key pieces that tend to get a lot of wear and tear. So items like sofas, dining chairs are a big one, and also beds. They get the most use. And so it's important to sort of invest in those pieces, make sure they're good quality, they're going to stand the test of time, not just from a wear and tear point of view, but from a design point of view. So maybe making those pieces appear a bit more neutral would probably be the best if you want good returns. Whereas having, you know, the armchair or smaller pieces might be a bit more quirky, a bit more interesting in terms of the finish and the texture. And then those pieces can sort of be recycled over time, and then you can bring in something a little bit more different without obviously breaking the bank, because investing in these sort of things obviously has a financial implication as well.
And what do you think about pops of color on walls? Like, I'm a big so we have within the Roundhill asset that's a bit different, very large scale properties, but when I do my own, I always, you know, all that the general kind of chat is always, oh, go neutral. Well, I actually do the complete opposite, where all of our properties have really bright kind of feature walls, and we find that actually those walls allow much better photography and it looks so much more exciting, and we actually get so much more interest when it's sort of a bold design rather than just like another white living room. How do you feel about that? Like, you deal with it every day. Do you tell your clients to go neutral because that's more kind of has longevity, or do you think the pops of color are good, or what are your thoughts?
I personally love pops of color on walls. I think they're a great focal point. As you said, from a photography and marketing point of view, it's fantastic because it creates interest in if you're on Rightmove or Zoopla. If you're a larger brand and a developer, great for Instagram. Everyone eats those kind of posts up if there's a really exciting color or something in your social media posts. So I personally think it's great from that point of view. I appreciate over time, if you damage the wall, then if it's a color, you usually then have to paint the entire wall because the shading will be slightly different. So it might be a bit of a nuisance in terms of maintenance. However, it is just paint. So it is something quite easy to redo as and when you please. So I think it's a great option, especially if you feel like that target demographic would really respond to it, for sure.
And do you think that as a trend is changing? Because, it used to be all white walls everywhere and everyone was very Scandi about it. Do you think that that's changing and people are wanting to see more color, or like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think tenants really appreciate having the option. I mean, some people might just feel more comfortable having white walls. It obviously makes the space look a lot more fresh. But I think it's really nice to have to work with a landlord that is really flexible in terms of saying, if you really like the color navy blue, then let's do a feature wall in the living room. Or it doesn't even have to be a wall. It could be, a block. There's a lot of really fun feature walls trending at the moment where you've got circles painted on the wall, or you could do something a bit more interesting and fun like that. Obviously wallpaper might be a bit difficult because that requires a lot more cost in terms of putting it up and then having to remove it. But I think it's a really nice touch for a landlord to add that sort of personal element when they're speaking to a potential tenant.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Interesting, cool. Karolina, do you want to share? I know you've prepared something, is that right?
Yeah, let's come to the furniture. The exciting part when we have a beautiful bright walls or white, and we think, so what do we do next? Imagine you're about to rent an apartment. So what would be the things you first look at? What things you're gonna like or dislike? Well, first thing I would like to share with you 5 principles which you need to consider when you buy furniture. So budget, then it's space, functionality, balance of color and texture, and personalization. Allow people to customize the space, because if you're letting the apartment, place gonna stay, but people gonna change, and each of them would like to feel themselves at home. So if we start with the most interesting part is budget, then there's 2 things to consider. You're rather buying something for short term or long term. If you're a tenant who just moved in and need like things to put around, need the storage as soon as possible, the quick solution will be to go online on the website we all know, like Wayfair, Argos, IKEA, and order something online. But how we can trust if the furniture is a good quality? We only look at the reviews, but it doesn't guarantee you that the item not going to be faulty in a couple of months, and probably you have to buy it again and pay twice for the same piece of furniture. That's the risk you're paying for a quick delivery. But if you go with a long term, this is something for people who would like to stay in an apartment for a couple of years, or it's a landlord who buying a good quality furniture for many, many years ahead. And this way, you rather go to showroom where you can see the brand, touch the fabric, test the unit, and then buy it with a full confidence. Or you can order bespoke furniture, which lovely way of making something just for your space with a carefully chosen materials, and it guarantees the quality for a long, long time. But both of them, you're quite expensive. But this is where you need to choose. But the trick is, if you go to the store and you find the furniture you like, you always can go online and trying to find exactly same brand, same piece of furniture, but a bit cheaper. But still going to cost more than the quick furniture we buy online. But when we think of space, space is that luxury which we're all trying to pay for. Then you have a big apartment. You can put any kind of furniture. There's lots of light, lots of freedom of choice. But usually you have an apartment which is quite small and you need to think, so what do I do with it? Where do I start? And the most important is to free the space. Make sure you keep it tidy. Yes, clean it, tidy. Simple as that. And it already makes the space much bigger and make you feel comfortable. Make sure you don't put furniture on the way when you first enter the apartment, trying not to put big cabinets in front of it. Consider wall built-in wardrobe storage or narrow cabinets for shoes. And then you keep moving in the apartment. And if you have balcony or window, trying to free the path, make sure you don't put also anything heavy by the window to make sure it gets as much light as possible, especially in London, we need more light. And then you get blinds or curtains, make sure they open up fully to make sure that the all day light comes through the windows. And then we come to the furniture. So where do we start? This is the floor planning. Usually kitchen, bathroom and bedroom, they're separated, but the living room and dining area quite often is combined in one room. So how do you place the furniture? One of the mistakes people do is they place the furniture and have the furniture all around the walls, trying to create more space. But that's a bit of mistake. Just because space designed to be interactive, to walk through. So that's important to divide the room into two sections. For example, will be living room and dining area. But here you come that you need to understand what's the character of your apartment. What is that selling point? Then people are gonna come in an apartment, I want it. And rather it will be a big sofa where you invest quite a lot of money. And it is a great piece of furniture, which is gonna bring all people around and give extra sleeping space for your friends. That's gonna attract customers and tenants quite a lot. Or that would be a dining area where you're focusing on a big, solid dining table, and you choose something smaller for seating area. And this is where you need to decide before you start spending your budget, because money flows very quickly. But this is concentration, key statement elements in the apartment, which need to be considered in advance before you start getting excited about this online shopping with a bright, beautiful piece of furniture. So once you decide on that, I would like to show you also the screen. Hopefully I will manage that. 1 second. That. Let me know if you do you see it. Guys?
No.
Do you see it? No? No, you don't? Okay. That's something I was not prepared. Okay, one more time. Sorry about that. Okay. It's not exactly what I prepared in terms of.
There we go. There now.
Yeah, but I wanted a better view. Oh, you see?
No, it's gone again.
It's gone again. Okay. I'm taking too much time over here. I do apologize for that.
That's all right. We can always share it afterwards.
Yeah, one more time. Do you see it?
No.
Okay. Okay. That's something I didn't prepare. Okay, okay, I will speak about it then. It would be lovely to show, but well, what I was trying to say is also the rugs, they help a lot to allocate the zones. So visually, of course, it would be lovely to share that with you, as well as the small kitchen bar tables where you can put high stools, and this is how you can combine big sofa, which takes a lot of space in your room, as well as a small kitchen area. Then it's important to think about functionality. IKEA have amazing solutions in the sofa, which is the same size, 2-seat sofa, but it can transform into the bed. Or the buffet stool, which simple is what we already could buy from any stores, same design, but it could have some extra functionality that's always beneficial. Then you think of storage, same. You can place different kind of them, tall one, narrow one, trying to shape out and use all space you have for storage. Storage is quite important to be able to actually create that space, because we need to hide things. And the key, when you have a small apartment, you have to be organized. So you have to put these things around and need to be smart about it. And then you make decisions about, think about yourself. Whatever it's a family, students, or it's a young professionals, think where you gonna put the things when you first open the kitchen cabinet, where it's gonna be placed. Always think about yourself and invest a bit of time in this, rather than just like, I give it a go. Think how you will feel comfortable. And once entering the apartment like that, they feel so good inside. So that absolutely benefits everyone. And try not to over decorate. As the architect, Ms. Van der Rohe said, less is more. Try not to over decorate. Yes, family pictures on the walls are amazing, but it brings more value if you create 2 or 3 pieces of artwork, which is behind the sofa, and they take as an accent of an apartment. So they take the key elements and highlight the interior, as Nicola was saying. Sometimes you don't have to color everything in color, but these big details, they will make a big difference. Unfortunately, I hope you're going to see the slide after that. We'll possibly to place it on the website, because there was a great transform the furniture. If you take a simple shelving system in IKEA, there's a way how to customize it by buying the extra legs or handles. There are various of them, like styles and everything, and colors and finishes online. You can get cheaper one, you can get branded, which are more expensive, and all of them will do the purpose. You can transfer and put the same bookshelf cabinet and then put on top of it some pillows. It creates an extra seating area. You can put it on wheels and move around. It could be portable office units in your room. So this is an amazing way how so many different options existing there. You just need to search, because there's so many bookshelves which open up and it's a desk. And they do exist, and on a low budget as well. Wayfair, they have a collection specially designed for small apartments, so it's useful to look at it. And I would add as a one thing. Sorry, Eliza, you don't have a microphone turned on. Sorry. Anyway, the last thing I want to add, that people would go with different colors. Yes, you can paint over, but my suggestion will be give some people space, because they can hang their artwork and their mirrors and everything to create more space and light an apartment. Once you have the hooks, people can see that they can place. Sometimes when you enter an apartment and you're not allowed to place anything, you feel like you can't really feel at home. The only thing you can change is add pillows or rugs. Would be nice if there will be some already hooks and everything is already prepared for you, which helps you a lot to customize the space and feel at home. Yes, and I feel sorry that my presentation didn't show up the way planned.
No, that's super interesting. I think one of the questions we actually have goes to, so you mentioned IKEA and Wayfair and those kinds of places where you can buy relatively affordable furniture, right, that you can still customize and make beautiful. We have a question here saying, have you bought furniture via Alibaba before? They seem to have a lot of high quality designer furniture replicas at an affordable price. What do you guys think about that?
I personally haven't bought the furniture over there, but I know the experience of my friends and relatives who did that. That takes a lot of time. Usually when you really would like to buy something, you need it quite quick. And quite quick, we consider about 3 weeks or something. That's the maximum we could go for or wait for it. So I would personally not recommend. First of all, it takes a long time to deliver. Second, there's no guarantee how good is this quality. There will be problems to shipping it back and return. And if it costs a lot, it's probably not the most reasonable way you can spend your budget. I would go for safer versions which you still can return, or trying to see in the store and then find the same one, exactly the same one, cheaper with a deal somewhere on the website. That might save you some money and time.
Cool. Nicola, did you have anything to add to that? Is there any particular places you think are good for the smaller landlords to be looking at when buying?
So I also haven't purchased via Alibaba, but I agree with Karolina about the concerns that have been raised in the past. I think if you're looking to furnish a property and you don't really know where to start, obviously having a good idea of what you want. So, you know, you go on Pinterest or Instagram or Google and try to see properties that have the same sort of vision you're trying to create. That obviously is a good point to start. And then, I mean, obviously you can go to furnishing companies like the one that I work for, Hatch, which is a professional furnishing company, if you want interior design services, or if you're happy just to go down your high street. You know, there's obviously some fantastic furniture brands on the high street where you can mix and match. You don't have to go into John Lewis and buy all of the furniture that they have there. You can choose to get the sofa from there and the cushions from H&M Home, and there's ways that you could be quite savvy in where you're spending. And as Karolina said, do your research, because there might be a chair that you love, but it's out of your price point. If you do some searching for it, I guarantee you can find it at a lot more of an affordable price elsewhere. So it pays to do your research and just talk to people. The industry is surprisingly quite small. So, you know, it makes sense to network a bit and sort of understand where everyone is buying their pieces from.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. There's a question here around exercise equipment, which I actually find really interesting. So a lot more tenants are looking to incorporate exercise equipment, e.g. Peloton bikes and others into their apartments. How do you guys think is best to incorporate them? Obviously, they're quite clunky, big things, and especially in apartments in London, it's not like we're all, you know, spoiled with space. So yeah, I'll leave you guys.
It's definitely been interesting. I mean, I currently have my desk in our second bedroom, which 2 years ago I thought this would be a great guest bedroom, and we haven't had a guest for over a year. So, I mean, I feel like I kind of want to get rid of the bed, and then that would be a great space to put the Peloton bike. It obviously is quite difficult when you're in smaller homes to do that. I feel like Peloton bikes are quite good because they can sort of collapse and you can kind of tuck them away if you need to. But it's sort of about a trade-off, especially if you're in London. I mean, if you want to have an exercise space in your home, do you really want to have that armchair that's in the corner, or could you swap that out and you can create slightly bigger space for you to be able to work out from home? So it is just about space planning, which is what Karolina mentioned earlier. Space planning is like a make or break whether the property is gonna work really well for you.
But there are also some tricks. For example, I don't have another apartment for a guest, but I considered that I will buy the bed, which have a storage inside. So my whole bed is lifting up, and inside there I can allocate much more than just little things. I have weights. Everything is actually under my bed. So that's why I would say not under my bed, it's inside the bed. So it costs a little bit more, but it saves you so much time. It's amazing. In a couple of years, you come up with something which you haven't said before. Your storage is full, and then I have a space under my bed. Another thing is, if you have built-in wardrobe, sometimes instead of putting the cabinet next to it and taking space of your room, you can put this little cabinet inside your wardrobe, saving that much space. So use as much space as possible within the big wardrobe as well. If you can allocate certain shelving or something, or box or something, you can remove this little cabinet from your wardrobe and put weights inside. So this is a way how you can play with it. Make sure you have space, and after that you can always buy extra storage, extra something, and trying to fit in and hide it there. So think in advance this kind of furniture which might serve you a good use in the future, which you probably don't think of it right now, like as COVID and exercising equipment. Who thought of that? But now it's actually very useful. So good to think in advance.
I feel like in the future we're going to use our homes much more sort of with much more than just kind of coming home and sleeping, which used to be, you know, pre-COVID, where now I feel like we work from home, we exercise from home, we're spending so much more time from home. Have you guys seen some really interesting sort of furniture that kind of can be used for many different things, you know, like kind of put away desk space and things like that? I'm actually really interested in that because I think pre-COVID, I always thought, you know, a lot of the furniture that can transform, you know, like the bed to a sofa vibe, are often really bad quality and don't actually work like you want them to. But I feel like COVID's kind of accelerated that industry, and there must be some great sort of ways that we can utilize space for multiple uses. Have you guys seen some good things going on that we should know about as landlords?
I would say it's mostly related for bespoke furniture, which we produce in my company. So yes, sometimes when you go online, you buy something, it might not exactly working the way you expect it to be, especially if you sit on it or something it breaks. So there's always an option to go with something bespoke, but much cheaper. Bespoke doesn't mean it's going to cost a lot. If you use the plywood, which is laminated and different ways, so it still looks pretty. We did like a folded table, which is also from the wall. We did like a nice box, which is actually sitting bench. When it transforms, and you actually make a bigger space for working area, and you just put like little pillows on top of it, and that's it. So there's different ways you play. It's mostly for offices. So we did lots of them. So people transform, people like recycle materials. So they don't want to especially pay a lot for like pure maple chunk wood desk. They would like something easy, something cheap, something looks eco and still customized and still made as you wish to be working. So that's an amazing way. You can always cut down the price by this recyclable materials.
Cool. We have a question around biophilic design. I thought Nicola, you mentioned that earlier. So that one of the listeners is asking, do you promote biophilic design? So what do you think?
I mean, it's beautiful. So it's aesthetically pleasing for sure. I think we tend to look at this more so when you're dealing with amenity spaces in larger build-to-rent developments, where obviously you want to create more designed moments, more feature spots. But it is something, you know, to look into, consider. It's a larger expense, purely more from the maintenance point of view as well. But I think it definitely is something that I feel over time will become more cost effective as the demand for it increases, because a lot of people are looking at it. I mean, it was a big deal in commercial spaces and offices to add these elements of biophilic design, and I feel like it is going to start moving into more residential spaces. So yeah, I mean, watch this space. I think it's important to look into it and to consider it if it's right for your property.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, the things that have always worried us about it has been around the ongoing costs as well. It's not, it can look beautiful today, but actually to continue for it to look as beautiful as it does on day one, it can be very expensive.
Exactly. I know, like, you know, the companies usually that you procure these things from, they can also add a service charge and a maintenance fee to it as well, which is obviously great because it takes the guesswork out of you if you're not particularly a big green thumb. But yeah, it does obviously have added costs that keep going. So if you don't want to put in, you know, these huge green walls, then little plants will do just fine. You don't really have to go all out with these large biophilic displays. There are ways to bring it in a nicer, smaller format.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I was just coming on to this because it's something that I'm looking at some of our sort of private investments, is around how do you activate your gardens and patios, right? So I feel like pre-COVID, a lot of apartments and balconies or your house might have like a backyard, but no one really cared about it. When now everyone's like, oh, like how can I activate this space? It's going to be used so much more. So do you guys have some sort of like kind of top 5 tips of how to kind of activate patios and gardens?
I mean, it depends also on your space. If you have a big balcony or have a little, so you need to mind the space and how many people you're going to locate there. If you would like to have something big for a big crowd and you have lots of space in your garden, you can find different sofas and benches. But the problem is they're very expensive and the price starts from £400 and just continues. So sometimes you think I can't afford that. So there's a great option existing on Etsy. And there's a way how you can customize it, and you have this rust pallet. If any of you know the pallets which used for construction, for moving around, people put nice cushions on top of that, and this could be made handmade. You know, like depends on the certain atmosphere you would like to create, and you don't want to spend much money. You can find DIY options, how you can use whatever you had, like as I already said, shelving system or something, put pillows on it, or just this pallet, or find a cheaper version which you can buy on eBay. Someone already used that sofa in a better condition. You don't mind paying like it's a bit less, but it's still gonna look good. So you can find a way around to cut down the price. But of course, unfortunately, it's very expensive. People understand this is a time of summer coming and the prices go so high. So think of DIY, I would suggest.
Yeah, DIY is a good option if you have an outdoor space. I think it's also important when you're working with gardens and patios to space plan it how you would your interior. So, you know, have a space that's for dining. If you're allowed to have a barbecue outside, then obviously that would sort of be that more of that entertainment zone. If you're lucky enough to have a lawn or a larger area that can, if you've got a young family, that would be great for where the children can play. It could be a great workout spot as well. So it's just sort of sectioning off the spaces in your garden and patio. You don't have to put plants outside if you don't trust yourself to keep them alive. There's no pressure, but obviously that's a great way to bring in some color, some texture. Obviously, if you're really keen on sustainability and being more eco-friendly, then the more plants, a herb garden would be a great idea as well, just to add some more interest. But think of it as an extension of obviously your home, but also your personality. So if there's certain tasks that you like doing outside, whether that's painting or whatever, then, you know, create those spaces outside that you can do it and enjoy the couple of months a year that we have sunshine here in the UK. So to take advantage of it.
One thing that we've done in a couple of our properties, which has worked really well, especially in London, when you have those pretty small backyards, is do flower beds on either side, and then in the middle actually put down the brushable grass, because that then allows you not to ever have to mow grass or like worry about grass. It becomes so much more usable, and so you can use it for yoga, you can use it for like, you know, parties, and it just becomes so much easier to use, if that makes sense, because like actual grass, you're like, oh, my feet are going to get wet and this and that, where you just don't have those things with the brushable grass. And it just works so well when you have kind of a small backyard, but you don't know 100% what to do with it. And then I also think that definitely, whether you have the budget to buy, you know, a small 2-seater from IKEA, or the budget to buy a beautiful, you know, bespoke piece, I think just putting tables and chairs outside makes such a difference, because it's really difficult to go outside, whether it's a patio, you know, a balcony or a backyard, and just like stand. So like there has to be some type of furniture out there for people to see it as an amenity. So as a landlord, if you want people to see any type of outdoor space that you're providing as a reason for them to take the apartment or you know, lease the house from you, they have to see that piece as an amenitized space, rather than just, you know, some sort of weird backyard they can't use, you know. I think barbecues are also a great thing, but I'm from New Zealand, so I obviously think barbecues are a great idea. What else have we done in some of our houses? If you have the budget and you're looking at a larger asset, I would definitely suggest buying sort of mature or semi-mature trees outside, because it just completely changes the kind of first 15 seconds of someone coming into your building. If your front is actually landscaped, that it feels like it's been there forever. A lot of new stock can feel really kind of sparse and clean and kind of sterile, where if you kind of and I have found that a lot of build-to-rent developers will not at all have a landscaping line item. So actually thinking about that at the budget stage, and putting in much more than you would think into that line item to actually make the sort of entrance or the back garden or whatever it is for your development a real space that people can enjoy and actually use.
Yeah, I think,
and I agree. Continue.
I was going to say, I think landscape design is such an art, and it's really, really easy to get wrong. So by, contacting landscape designers and getting them involved from the outset, if that's something you're really keen to invest in, is just critical, because it will really, really turn your outdoor space into something really, really exciting.
Yeah, great. I think we're about out of time, but there was one last question which I thought was really interesting, which was, where do you think design is going in the future? Like, are we going to be more and more bespoke and more tailored per human, and how that might work? Or are we going to all become more, communal living vibe? Like, what do you guys think is the sort of future trend, if you had to pick a couple in sort of the next 10, 20 years?
I think trends evolve together with people, and every day something come up new, and it's not someone set up the design, it's how people shape the design out of their needs and out of beautiful aesthetics. It's like fashion, it's keep changing, but it's always come back. There's a certain classic things which never gonna run out of fashion, what we consider in the furniture and interior design, but some little bits which we should not spend too much money, but it could be interesting, crazy, organic shaped mirror, or different artwork, or different patterns, you can replace quite easily. But design always going to be evolving in you. You can't predict that, but just as an investment, stay with something which is going to last you for many, many years. But other things, just keep buying. If you feel like something which makes you feel good, and people who arrive in a place, it makes them feel amazing, would like to get this property, just do it. You need to also not put yourself in too much constraint. You still need to get yourself a freedom to play with textures and colors. Don't be afraid you have to follow certain rules. Designer said how it's going to look. You need to feel good at home. So that's the main, I think, reason. And plants, yes, apartments, plants, even in a small stuffy room, like plants can make everything alive. So it's always going to look more expansive, more like beautiful, and you're going to feel great as well. So plants always go well.
I would agree with that. I think the biggest and that I think is going to stay for a long time is the demand for good quality apartments and good quality furniture pieces as well. So tenants nowadays are getting really savvy, and they will notice the difference between a good or poor quality sofa, bed, mattress, whatever. So investing in those key pieces means that you're going to be able to attain a better tenant, and a tenant that actually cares about your property as much as you did putting the furniture into it. So keep that in mind.
And I think that's a really, really good point. Like, if you spend the money, you'll get a tenant that will look after it too, a high quality tenant that will pay their rent, that will stay in that apartment. So I think that's really important. Okay, I think we're out of time. I just got a text that apparently we are out of time, but it was lovely chatting with you both. Hope it's helpful for everyone else.
Yeah, you too. It was nice.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.